Chairman Self, Ranking Member Keating, and distinguished members of the committee, on behalf of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, thank you again for the opportunity to testify before the subcommittee. I'm pleased at this committee's leadership and that it continues to focus on Russia's efforts to destabilize Europe. I continue to believe that the greatest threat to Euro-Atlantic stability and international peace is Russia's illegal war in Ukraine. If Russia prevails in Ukraine, we can expect to see a barrage of the same tactics, this time directed towards America's treaty allies. But the focus of today's hearing is weaponized migration and its role as a key component of Russia's new generation warfare campaign. My testimony will discuss weaponized migration and its impact on NATO's military readiness. New generation warfare, what the U.S. refers to as hybrid warfare, covers an array of Russian non-kinetic activities, including covert and overt influence operations, cyber attacks, election meddling, drone operations, and weaponized migration. Russia believes weaponized migration puts NATO allies under duress, throwing them into a state of chaos, undermining democratic institutions, and reducing their ability to devote resources to defense and security spending. Therefore, Russia is both actively exploiting the refugee crisis caused by the war in Ukraine and utilizing desperate immigrants from Syria and the Middle East to sow societal discord and destabilize Europe. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has caused the greatest refugee crisis in Europe since World War II. Throughout the war, Russia has targeted civilian and energy infrastructure, in part to further exacerbate that migration crisis. In the first few months of the invasion, Russian forces displaced over 6.5 million people, overwhelming European energy and food resources and placing countries in a state of chaos. That overall effect was staggering. Russia then compounds this effect by altering the flow of non-European migrants as well. Since the Ukrainian war began, the EU border agencies found a 200% increase in non-European migrant arrivals along the EU's eastern border and a corresponding decrease in the passage along the more traditional routes like the Mediterranean. This signals Russia's active efforts to manufacture a migration crisis in Eastern Europe. Like other new generation warfare campaigns, Russia's effort to weaponize migration is done in collaboration with Putin's puppet state, Belarus. Russia and Belarus share borders with numerous European states. The Kremlin exploits these borders, encouraging and resourcing influx of migrants from the Middle East and Africa to transit through Russia and Belarus and into Eastern Europe. In the immediate ramp up to Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, the Lukashenko administration flew migrants to the capital city of Minsk and then transported them via state buses to the borders of EU countries, including Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland. In June 2024, there were 400 immigrants a day crossing the Poland-Belarus border. And Belarusian and Russian criminal gangs secure visas and transport for these immigrants, sometimes coordinate with Belarusian border officials to cut fences to allow entry into the European Union. And probably most alarmingly, last year, 4 tunnels were discovered that were likely used to smuggle migrants from Poland into from Belarus. As a direct result, the situation along the borders often devolves into violence and chaos, which the Kremlin, as well as European extremists, use to push their agendas. In addition to the effects on societal stability, the migrant crisis has cost Poland alone an estimated 30 billion euros over the last 4 years. Weaponized migration degrades NATO readiness. It forces our allies to divert military resources by creating sustained operational pressures along critical frontiers. For example, in November 2021, Poland deployed 15,000 troops to its Belarusian border, pulling forces from other defensive and training missions. Lithuania and Latvia have had to do the same. So not only does the Kremlin's exploitation of the migrant crisis help Putin achieve his political objectives in Poland and the Baltics, it also places NATO and America's ability to fight with and through its allies in jeopardy. My written testimony provides numerous recommendations to address the full range of Russia's new generation warfare. But to combat the weaponized migration in particular, I want to highlight 4 recommendations. First, the U.S. and NATO should continue to raise awareness of Russian tactics, exposing and identifying how Russia weaponizes migration. Next, the United States and NATO should provide technical assistance to border states, including American surveillance and border security technology. Third, NATO should direct its existing hybrid warfare units to monitor Russia's weaponized migration efforts and take actions to disrupt those campaigns. And finally, the U.S. should continue to put maximum pressure on Belarus, including imposing more sanctions on Lukashenko's regime and specifically on companies, including airlines, that facilitate migrant movements. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.